The Crown Prince and I were a pair of bitter enemies, bound by a marriage that bred nothing but hatred. He loathed me for stealing the title of Crown Princess from his beloved, for killing her. I hated him for slipping me that infernal potion, for robbing me of the chance to be a mother for the rest of my life. To avenge Cheng Feiyan, the moment he ascended the throne, he framed my Meng clan for treason and executed every last one of them. The day the enemy army breached the city gates, their leader mocked him, sneering, "Your Majesty is the Son of Heaven, ruler of all under heaven, so why do you cling to such childish trinkets? I've heard that Your Majesty and the Empress share a deep, boundless love. Her Highness is truly a vision of beauty. Why not send her to be my concubine?" The Crown Prince hugged the rabbit lantern in his arms tightly, his eyes wild with madness. "Do whatever you want to me. Just leave Yang alone, Your Highness. Save me." I watched him stand there, frozen, as the enemy soldiers tore my clothes from my body. Consumed by shame and rage, I threw myself off the city wall. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day before the Emperor issued the imperial edict of marriage. If his heart belonged to another, then it was time to put a different man on the throne as Crown Prince. "You wish to refuse the imperial betrothal?" The Emperor stared at me in astonishment. "If Your Majesty truly wishes to repay the debt of gratitude you owe my father for helping you seize the throne, then I beg you to grant me the right to establish my own household as a female head of family, and bestow upon me the title of County Lord. I have been betrothed to Wen Hemming since childhood. I implore Your Majesty to bless our union. You are a loyal and trustworthy child, keeping your promise even in the face of imperial favor. Still, you and the Crown Prince have been close since you were little." I knew he was testing me, probing for hidden motives. I lowered my head, answering him with the utmost deference. "Your Majesty, childhood words are just that, child's play. I was young and naive then. Zhao Zhao did not understand the ways of love. I only ever saw the Crown Prince as an elder brother." The Emperor twirled the jade ring on his thumb, his eyes narrowing as he weighed the pros and cons of my request. I knew exactly why he had arranged this marriage between me and Xiao Xianming. It was nothing more than a trap, a way to use me as a hostage to control my father, the powerful Meng general. Now that I was voluntarily rejecting the betrothal and choosing to remain in the capital, I would still be his pawn to hold over my father's head, and he would get an added bonus. He could choose a new crown princess for Xiao Xianming, one from a noble clan that would help him balance the power in the court. It was a win-win situation for him. Why would he refuse? Sure enough, after a long, tense silence, his deep, authoritative voice boomed from the throne above. "I approve." I knelt down, kowtowing deeply to show my gratitude. As I walked out of the Hall of Diligent Governance, I collided head-on with Xiao Xianming. My gaze fell on the tiger jade pendant hanging from his waist. In my past life, he had knelt for days outside this very hall, begging the Emperor to let him marry his beloved, the daughter of a mere merchant, instead of me. Clearly, he was here to stop me, afraid that I would force the Emperor to issue the marriage edict and ruin his precious chance with Cheng Feiyan. Everyone in the capital knew I was destined to be the crown princess. Before the chaos engulfed the realm, my father had been stationed in the northwest, leading his troops. My mother had supported me and my younger brother by making and selling lanterns. When Xiao Xianming was a boy, he had lived with our family. My mother had taught him how to make lanterns with her own hands. Every lantern festival, my brother, Xiao Xianming, and I would fight tooth and nail over the most beautiful lantern my mother had made that year. But my mother always gave that lantern to Xiao Xianming. In the end, she had even died protecting him. After that, every lantern festival, Xiao Xianming would make a tiger lantern for me with his own hands. One New Year's Eve banquet, Princess Duanyang had taken a fancy to my tiger lantern. We had gotten into a terrible fight right outside the Hall of Diligent Governance, pulling each other's hair like a pair of spoiled brats. When Princess Duanyang realized she couldn't beat me, she deliberately stepped on my tiger lantern, smashing it to pieces. Xiao Xianming had immediately pushed her to the ground, shielding me behind his back. Moments later, the Emperor, the Empress, and my father arrived on the scene. Everyone knew Xiao Xianming was always cautious and restrained, yet he had fought with his own elder sister to defend me. The Empress had looked at Xiao Xianming with a smile, saying, "It seems the Crown Prince is quite fond of the Meng girl, protecting her so fiercely, not letting her suffer the slightest grievance." Xiao Xianming had been acting like an angry little tiger just a moment ago, but at her words, his face had turned bright red with embarrassment. The Emperor and my father had exchanged a meaningful glance, and in that instant, they had reached an agreement to betroth me to Xiao Xianming. Later, when the Empress passed away, Xiao Xianming had locked himself in the Eastern Palace for 3 days and nights, refusing to eat or drink anything. To make him a bowl of kanji, I had almost burned down the entire kitchen of the general's mansion. I had carried that bowl of kanji to him, my face covered in soot and ash. Knowing he suffered from insomnia every night, I had spent 3 months learning from the palace embroideresses to make him a tiger-shaped pillow filled with wormwood. I had only wanted him to sleep a little more soundly. All the noble ladies in the capital praised me to my face, but behind my back, they called me uncouth and vulgar. But they didn't know, every autumn hunting expedition, Xiao Xianming would race horses with me, just me. Once, my horse had been spooked and thrown me off its back. Xiao Xianming had jumped off his horse without a second thought, hugging me tightly as we rolled down the hillside together. I had refused to let him see my wounds, but he had torn off his own sleeve and bandaged me up carefully, his eyes filled with genuine concern, overwhelmed by a surge of grievances. I had snapped at him in frustration. "Your Highness, you ought to marry a well-educated, gentle lady from a noble family, not a rough, horse-crazy daughter of a military general like me." Xiao Xianming had pulled me into his arms, holding me close. "I only love a woman as free-spirited and unyielding as Zhao Zhao." I had laughed in his arms, but the laughter had soon turned to tears. The day he left to suppress the pirates in the southeast, he had sworn to me earnestly, "Wait for me to come back. Once I have my coming-of-age ceremony, I will go to General Meng and ask for your hand in marriage." But when he returned, everything had changed. He had brought back a merchant's daughter with him, Cheng Feiyan. The Xiao Xianming who had once made tiger lanterns only for me, now only made rabbit lanterns for Cheng Feiyan. He had personally taken Cheng Feiyan to the victory banquet celebrating the defeat of the pirates, parading her in front of all the noble ladies to show her off. Cheng Feiyan had falsely accused me of being consumed by jealousy, of pushing her down the stairs of the pavilion. Xiao Xianming had looked at me with disgust in his eyes, then he had turned around, picked up Cheng Feiyan, and carried her to find the imperial physician, leaving me there, covered in bruises, having fallen down the same stairs. And for Cheng Feiyan, he had knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance for 3 days and 3 nights, begging the emperor to cancel our betrothal. But the emperor valued the Meng clan's military power too much to agree. He had reprimanded Xiao Xianming harshly. I had waited anxiously all night, only to receive the imperial edict of marriage. I had married him, my heart brimming with joy and hope. On our wedding night, Cheng Feiyan had entered the Eastern Palace in a small sedan chair, becoming his concubine Liangdi. I had waited alone until the red wedding candles burned down to stubs. It was not until the next day that Xiao Xianming finally appeared in my chambers, looking completely satisfied. "Now that you are the crown princess, I have given you the title you wanted, but in my heart, Yang is the only one who deserves to be my wife." That was when I realized it had all been a deal between him and the emperor. He had agreed to marry me only to secure a legitimate title for Cheng Feiyan. I never understood why Xiao Xianming had changed so drastically overnight. why his eyes and heart were filled with no one but Cheng Feiyan. My position as crown princess was nothing but an empty title in the Eastern Palace. My father had pitied me, so he had entered the palace to beg the emperor to intervene. That was when Xiao Xianming had finally, reluctantly, stepped into my bedroom. He had fulfilled his marital duties perfunctorily, giving me a child, Meng Jiaojiao. I warn you, do not try any of your underhanded tricks, just give birth to this child obediently and play the part of the crown princess. Less than a month later, Xiao Xianming had taken Cheng Feiyan out on a boat trip on the lake. And Cheng Feiyan had been found to be 2 months pregnant. That very night, Xiao Xianming had hired a troupe of opera singers to perform in the Eastern Palace. The entire palace had been decorated with lanterns and streamers, filled with joy and celebration. Everyone except me. My Chonghua Palace had been left in darkness, lit only by a single lonely lamp. No one had cared about me. The emperor had known I was suffering in the Eastern Palace. So he had specially assigned 2 trusted nurses to attend to me until I gave birth safely. He had even issued a royal decree, stating clearly that only the child I bore would be recognized as the legitimate crown prince's eldest son, the heir to the throne. That night, Xiao Xianming had kicked open my bedroom door and stormed in, his face livid with anger. Is that all you are good for, running to father to tattle? Yang is a sensitive soul. How do you think she felt when she heard about this decree? I had placed a hand on my swollen belly, forcing back my tears. So is my child not yours as well? At my words, the drunken haze in Xiao Xuanming's eyes had cleared a little. He had opened his mouth to speak, but in the end, no words had come out. The next day, he had sent me a bolt of the finest Shu brocade, newly presented as a tribute from Shu Prefecture. Cheng Feiyan had grown more and more worried that once I gave birth, Xiao Xianming would soften toward me because of the child. What worried her even more was that my child would stand in the way of her own child's future. She had specially invited me to the Pudu temple outside the city to pray for our unborn children, but on our way down the mountain, a group of bandits had ambushed us. The hidden guards my father had arranged had protected me and my child safely, but Cheng Feiyan had fallen victim to her own schemes. She had died at the hands of the bandits. From that day on, Xiao Xianming had hated me with a passion. That very night, Xiao Xianming had personally brought me a bowl of contraceptive soup. He had clamped his hand around my jaw, forcing me to drink it down. A vicious, scheming woman like you does not deserve to bear my child. The scalding hot liquid had spilled down my neck, leaving a trail of blistering red burns in its wake. I had been racked with unbearable abdominal pain all night long. From between my legs, a tiny, unformed male fetus had slipped away. I had sat by the window all night, holding the embroidered bellaband I had made for my baby, letting the cold wind blow through my body. Then I had taken all the tiger lanterns Xiao Xianming had given me over the years, every single one, and burned them to ashes. To spare my father from worry, I had put on a show ever since, pretending to be a loving, devoted wife whenever we were in public, before the late emperor passed away. Xiao Xianming had colluded with powerful ministers in the court to plant evidence of treason in the general's mansion, framing my father for colluding with the enemy. Overnight, the Meng clan had been annihilated. Every male relative over the age of 14 had been beheaded. The women had all been taken away to be sold as official slaves. It had been snowing heavily that day. I had knelt barefoot in the snow, my hair loose and unadorned, begging him to spare my family's lives. But did your Meng clan ever spare Yang's life? In this life, to protect my father and the Meng clan, I would never repeat the same mistakes. A drop of rain fell on my forehead, pulling me out of my painful memories. Xiao Xianming grabbed me by the sleeve, his grip tight and painful. You are nothing but the daughter of a military brute. How dare you even dream of being my crown princess? Meng Jiaojiao, I tell you this now, I will only ever love Cheng Feiyan in this life. Get rid of those shameless schemes of yours. I laughed, a cold, mocking sound. Your Highness, with Miss Cheng's humble merchant background, even if our betrothal is called off, she will never be able to become your wife. Xiao Xuanming's eyes turned icy cold with rage. As long as you do not cling to me like a leech, begging to marry me, I will never take another wife in this life. Yang will be my only bride. Who would have thought that? Xiao Xianming was nothing but a lovesick fool. Your Highness, marry whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Xiao Xianming froze, staring at me in stunned disbelief. For him, I, who had always hated reading and studying, had forced myself to behave like the other noble ladies in the capital. I had never once raised my voice at him, yet he had chosen to cling to Cheng Feiyan's rabbit lantern. Watching indifferently as I was humiliated by the enemy soldiers, shame and anger burned in my throat like fire. I pushed Xiao Xianming away with all my strength, and walked toward the palace gate without looking back, leaving him standing there in the pouring rain, his face etched with shock. Just like he had left me standing in the rain countless times before, all for the sake of Cheng Feiyan, when my father returned home from the palace. He was so angry that his beard was practically sticking straight up. You have always been so infatuated with the crown prince, so why did you beg the emperor to cancel the betrothal? It is nothing. Father, when I was young, did you not arrange a marriage for me? I replied calmly. I have heard that the young master when has achieved the rank of third-place scholar in this year's imperial examinations. I find him to be a very admirable man. Father suddenly froze, as if remembering something. He patted my head gently, because I knew how much you loved the crown prince. I turned him down when he came to ask for your hand in marriage. Ever since mother passed away, father had never once considered remarrying. He had always blamed himself for failing to protect her. That guilt had slowly transferred to me. Whatever I wanted, father would move heaven and earth to get it for me. But this man who had loved me so deeply, who had dedicated his entire life to serving the great Liang dynasty, had been falsely accused of treason by Xiao Xianming and publicly beheaded at the Meridian Gate. What's wrong? Why are you crying? Seeing the tears streaming down my face, father's anger melted away instantly. I pouted, clinging to his arm in a childish show of affection. Father, I don't want to marry the crown prince anymore. I want to marry that third-place scholar. When Hemming, you have to make it happen for me. Father stroked my eyebrows tenderly, his eyes filled with doting warmth. If that's what my Jiao Jiao wants, then I'll swallow my pride and beg for this marriage, no matter what it takes. But when Hemming is just a lowly scholar, father is afraid you'll be wronged by marrying him. I hugged him tightly around the waist, my voice sweet and coquettish. As long as father is here, who dares to make me suffer? Father, you have been my rock for so long. In this life, let me be yours, for my sake. Father swallowed his pride and personally went to apologize to Wen Hemming. To our surprise, when Hemming agreed to the marriage without hesitation, my aunt busied herself with preparing my dowry, chattering away excitedly. That boy from the Wen family is such a fine young man, I've always liked him. Jiao Jiao, I'm so relieved that you've finally let go of the crown prince and chosen him instead. Everyone says that once you enter the palace gates, it's like falling into a bottomless sea of troubles. When I saw how obsessed you were with the crown prince before, I was so worried sick. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. Having been reborn, I no longer cared about love or romance. To save the Meng clan, when Hemming might just be my best ally, with the marriage settled, my mood lifted considerably. Miss, your ruby jewelry set is ready. Would you like to go take a look at it today? My aunt accompanied me to the Tianjin Pavilion in the eastern part of the city to pick up the custom-made jewelry. This set had been designed by Xiao Xianming and me together. Before he left to suppress the pirates, I had given the craftsman the design drawings. Preparing it for our wedding day, the rubies glowed with a dazzling red light in the sunlight. My aunt held a bronze mirror for me personally while the maids helped me put on each piece of jewelry one by one. Just as I was about to put on the phoenix jade hairpin, someone snatched it from the maid's hand before I could reach it. What a beautiful hairpin. The capital really is a place of endless luxury and temptation, the woman sighed. Cheng Feiyan's eyes turned red as she spoke. When my mother passed away, she also left me a jewelry set just like this. Her maid quickly chimed in, adding fuel to the fire. But my lady is such a filial daughter, she personally placed the set on my lady mother's body before sending her to her final resting place. Cheng Feiyan dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, her large, almond-shaped eyes brimming with tears as she begged me, "Miss, could you please part with this hairpin? I am willing to pay 3 times its price for it." I turned around sharply, snatching the hairpin back from Cheng Feiyan's hand. "Miss Cheng, a gentleman never covets what belongs to others. This hairpin means more to me than anything in the world. I hope you can understand." Cheng Feiyan's face crumpled into a look of aggrieved tears as she clung to Xiao Xuanming's arm. "Your Highness, let's just go look somewhere else, please." Xiao Xuanming frowned deeply, his gaze cold and accusing as he looked at me. "You have already stolen the title of crown princess from her. Can you not even bear to give her a single jewelry set? I never knew you were such a petty, selfish woman." Without another word, he ordered his guards to take the entire jewelry set away from me right in front of my eyes. Once again, Xiao Xuanming had chosen Cheng Feiyan over me. Cheng Feiyan shot me a triumphant glance over her shoulder as she left. So all that fragility and innocence she displayed in front of Xiao Xuanming was nothing but an act. But Xiao Xuanming had grown up in the palace, surrounded by the constant scheming and infighting of the concubines since he was a child. Could he really not see through her lies? Or was he simply choosing to indulge her? It no longer mattered. I had more important things to do today. Today was Mother's death anniversary. My aunt accompanied me to visit Mother's grave. I had specially brought the last tiger lantern Mother had left me. By the time our carriage arrived back at the general's mansion, the news of the crown prince snatching my jewelry set for Cheng Feiyan had already spread throughout the entire city. The storyteller at the tea house across the street was already beating his drum, spinning the tale for a crowd of onlookers. "Have you heard? The crown prince brought back a woman from the coastal city. Today is the death anniversary of General Meng's late wife, but the crown prince hasn't even shown up to pay his respects. It seems the marriage between the Meng girl and the crown prince is hanging by a thread. And let me tell you this, when the crown prince went to suppress the pirates, the Cheng family lent him all their merchant ships. They helped the crown prince lure the pirates with the full cargoes on those ships, leading to their complete annihilation. The Cheng family's contribution to this victory cannot be overstated." My aunt was so angry that she stormed across the street with her hands on her hips, ready to give that storyteller a piece of her mind. But as soon as we stepped down from the carriage, a delicate woman dressed in plain white mourning clothes knelt in front of us, weeping bitterly. "I am nothing but a weak and insignificant woman. As long as I can stay by His Highness's side, I would even be willing to be his personal maid, washing his feet every day. I beg you, Miss Meng, to be magnanimous and spare my family, you shameless girl. How dare you open your mouth and spout such slanderous lies?" my aunt shouted, her face turning red with rage. My father was summoned to the capital by His Majesty to receive his reward for his meritorious service. He was supposed to arrive 3 days ago, but he still hasn't shown up. Miss Meng, I beg you, whatever you want from me, take it, just please spare my father. With that, she began kowtowing to me frantically, her forehead bleeding from the force of her prostrations on the stone pavement. Miss Meng, I promise I will leave His Highness forever if you spare my father. I swear it. She lunged forward, throwing herself at the carriage to beg me. And her hand landed directly on the tiger lantern by my side. No, in the next second, The paper covering the last tiger lantern Mother had left me was torn to shreds, exposing the bamboo frame underneath. Cheng Feiyan's hand was covered in blood from the sharp bamboo splinters. The sound of galloping horse hooves drew near. Xiao Xianming rushed over, shielding Cheng Feiyan behind him without a second thought. When he saw the blood on her hand, his eyes filled with deep, genuine concern. Meng Jiaojiao, have you no shame? How could I have ever wanted to marry a woman as cruel and vicious as you? To stop a Yang from marrying me, you have even stooped to the level of attempted murder. How could you become such a monster? I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I just hugged the broken lantern tightly to my chest, trying to paste the torn paper back onto the bamboo frame. But no matter how hard I tried, the pieces would not stay together. Slap, Your Highness. Today is the death anniversary of my late sister-in-law, my aunt shouted, slamming her palm against the carriage. Jiao Jiao has already begged His Majesty to cancel the betrothal. How dare you humiliate her like this? Cancel the betrothal? That's impossible, Xiao Xianming retorted, his voice sharp with disbelief. General Meng, your late wife saved my life once. I know you are only trying to protect your daughter. If Meng Jiaojiao is willing to tell me where Mr. Cheng is hiding, I can forgive your act of insubordination today. Father was a man of war, who had always hated these petty political schemes and empty formalities. My daughter's happiness is the only thing that matters in this world, he declared, his voice steady and firm. Jiao Jiao is heartbroken today. If Your Highness wishes to punish someone for this incident, I will personally go to the palace tomorrow to accept whatever punishment His Majesty deems fit. But Xiao Xianming refused to let us go, blocking our path with his horse. What do you mean by cancelling the betrothal, Meng Jiaojiao? You will explain yourself to me right now. The crowd of onlookers grew larger and larger, all of them watching the drama unfold with eager eyes. I gave Father a reassuring look, then stepped forward, staring directly into Xiao Xuanming's eyes. Your Highness, today is the death anniversary of my late mother, the same woman who once saved your life. Do you really want to disturb her peaceful rest with all this nonsense? You believe everything Cheng Feiyan says, but not a single word that comes out of my mouth. If you truly think I kidnapped Mr. Cheng, then do whatever you want to me. I don't care anymore. Jiao Jiao, I didn't mean. Guards, I shouted, cutting him off. Cheng Feiyan has destroyed a precious relic left to me by my late mother. Drag her down and give her 30 lashes as punishment. Make her kowtow to my mother and beg for forgiveness. The guards of the Meng mansion lined up in an orderly row, holding wooden canes in their hands. Do it, I ordered. I am here today. I dare any of you to lay a hand on her. Xiao Xianming roared, drawing his sword and pointing it directly at me. As I raised the cane in my hand, ready to strike Cheng Feiyan myself, a sharp pain pierced my chest. Crimson blood seeped through my clothes, blurring the embroidered patterns on the fabric. Blooming like a flower of blood. Why didn't you dodge? Xiao Xianming whispered, his voice trembling with shock. Memories flashed before my eyes like a revolving lantern. In my past life, he had stabbed me in the chest countless times for Cheng Feiyan's sake. One more time wouldn't make any difference. I forced myself to stay on my feet, raising the cane and striking Cheng Feiyan 30 times as hard as I could. Beads of sweat dripped down my forehead, mixing with the tears streaming down my face. My aunt and father rushed forward to support me, helping me back into the mansion. Xiao Xianming chased after us, pulling a bottle of golden healing ointment out of his pocket. Take this. I threw the bottle directly at his face. Then I took a hairpin and cut off the half of my sleeve that he had grabbed earlier. Your Highness, from this day forward, all ties between us are severed. Take your beloved woman and get out of the general's mansion, never to return. It took only 3 days for Xiao Xianming to send someone to deliver the finest healing medicine in the palace to me, along with a letter of apology. In the letter, he explained that Mr. Cheng had simply been visiting an old friend and had failed to send word to Cheng Feiyan in time, which had caused the misunderstanding. Attached to the letter was his tiger jade pendant. This pendant had been made by Mother herself, using her own dowry money to buy the jade and choose the design. There were 2 pendants, a male and a female one. They had been our tokens of love. By sending this to me, he was declaring his intention to marry me. It seemed he had made up his mind to have me as his crown princess after all. Soon, my 15th birthday arrived, the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. In my past life, the emperor and father had reached a secret agreement to announce the imperial betrothal on this very day, doubling the celebration. I had thought that after the things I had said to him, Xiao Xianming would not dare to attend my ceremony, but to my surprise, he came, and he brought Cheng Feiyan with him. Watching them walk side by side, looking so intimate and happy together, I had expected to feel a sharp pain in my heart, but instead, I felt nothing but a strange sense of peace and relief. As I walked across the red wooden bridge in the mansion, dressed in my magnificent ceremonial robes, Cheng Feiyan walked toward me with a malicious glint in her eyes. Miss Meng. His Highness is deeply in love with me now. I advise you to beg His Majesty to cancel the betrothal on your own accord. It would be far less humiliating than having His Highness beg for it himself. She sneered. She covered her mouth with her handkerchief, giggling softly. Miss Cheng, even if I cancel the betrothal with the Crown Prince, do you really think the Emperor will allow him to marry a lowly merchant's daughter like you from some backwater town? I retorted coolly. As long as His Highness loves me in his heart, I don't care about titles or status. She shot back defiantly. His Highness and I have spent countless romantic nights together, talking under the moon and flowers. He says you are illiterate and uneducated, unlike him, who is skilled in both literary arts and martial arts. If it weren't for his debt of gratitude to your family, he would have begged His Majesty to cancel the betrothal a long time ago. So that was it. He had always resented me for being uneducated, for embarrassing him in front of others. The arrogance in Cheng Feiyan's eyes suddenly turned to pure, unadulterated triumph. She reached out, running her fingers over the embroidered patterns on my collar, then leaned in to whisper in my ear, her voice dripping with malice. What a pity that such fine silk and jade should be wasted on a vulgar, uncouth wild girl like you. Before I could react, she used her body weight to pull me down with her, tumbling into the lotus pond beside the bridge. The ceremonial robe my aunt had spent a whole month embroidering for me was instantly covered in mud and filth. Hearing the commotion, Xiao Xianming rushed over from the male guest seating area, jumping into the pond and pulling Cheng Feiyan out of the water first. Without a second glance at me, Your Highness, it's all my fault, Cheng Feiyan cried, clinging to him weakly. I only wanted to apologize to Miss Meng for the incident with the jewelry set earlier, but I wasn't used to wearing these high-heeled shoes and accidentally bumped into her. She didn't push me on purpose. I swear, Meng Zhaozhao, Yang came here with nothing but good intentions to celebrate your coming-of-age ceremony, yet you treat her with such cruelty. Don't think that just because you are going to be my legal wife, you can bully Yang like this. I had made myself crystal clear that day, but he still refused to believe me. I let out a cold, mocking laugh, my eyes locking onto Xiao Xuanming's, who said I want to marry you, Your Highness. I looked at him with undisguised sarcasm. I am illiterate and vulgar. How could I ever be worthy of someone as accomplished as you? Did you not go to the palace the day before yesterday, begging father to finalize our marriage as soon as possible? What nonsense are you spouting now? Does everyone in the capital not know that you are the predetermined crown princess, that you will marry me as soon as you come of age? I met his icy gaze head-on, every word dripping with finality. The Emperor has already agreed to annul our betrothal. Besides, I have been engaged to the newly appointed third-place scholar since childhood. After my coming-of-age ceremony, I will marry him. As a testament to the Meng clan's unwavering commitment to our promises, a flicker of panic crossed Xiao Xuanming's arrogant face, his composure slipping for the first time. Impossible. You have been chasing after me since we were children. How could you ever let me go so easily? Furthermore, marrying me. It was your mother's dying wish. I wrung the water out of my soaked skirt, then walked toward him step by step, until our faces were inches apart. Close enough to hear each other's heartbeats. My mother was blind to have risked her life to save an ungrateful wretch like you. If she were watching from the afterlife, she would be the first to support me in cutting off all ties with you forever. For Xiao Xuanming's sake, I had once forced myself to learn the rigid etiquette of the palace. I had clipped my own claws and fangs, transforming myself into a docile little cat, just to become a worthy crown princess for him. I had never once dared to speak to him with such defiance. He was used to my meekness, my obedience. Seeing me like this, sharp-tongued and unyielding, he looked visibly disconcerted. If you want me to care about you, must you resort to such foolish tactics? When he first brought Cheng Feiyan into the Eastern Palace, I had tried the same childish tricks, crying, throwing tantrums, making a scene, all just to prove that I was the one who mattered most in his heart. But now, I was no longer that naive girl. Xiao Xuanming's eyes were filled with disbelief. What about this tiger jade pendant? Then, he demanded, his voice tight, if you really want to cut ties with me, why are you still wearing it? I'm just used to it. If it offends you, Your Highness, I'll take it off right now and give it to you as a wedding gift for you and Miss Cheng. Xiao Xuanming shook his head, as if refusing to accept the reality unfolding before him. Zhao Zhao, you're drunk. I'll pretend I never heard any of this nonsense. As long as you apologize to A Yang, your position as crown princess is still yours for the taking. Even now, he still couldn't bring himself to believe that I was serious. Perhaps all those years of me chasing after him had given him a false sense of security. Now that I was finally letting go, he was the one who was panicking. I looked at him and smiled, a cold, empty smile. The one who owes an apology is Cheng Feiyan, not me, Your Highness. You can keep your precious crown princess title, save it for the woman you truly love. You, how dare you be so ungrateful? Does everyone in the capital not know you are the future crown princess? If the betrothal is annulled, it won't just be you who becomes the laughingstock of the city, it will be the entire Meng clan. I'm giving you one last chance. As long as you apologize sincerely, A Yang is kind-hearted enough to forgive you. The always arrogant Xiao Xuanming, who reserved all his gentleness for Cheng Feiyan alone. It had been so long since he had spoken to me with even a hint of that tenderness. Now, the only reason he was willing to lower his pride and beg me to stay was still for Cheng Feiyan's sake. I said nothing, just stared at him coldly, my eyes devoid of any emotion. Your Highness, it was my fault for being so rude and inappropriate. Cheng Feiyan piped up, her voice soft and timid, playing the part of the innocent victim to perfection. Miss Meng is the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion, while I am nothing but the lowly daughter of a merchant. How could I ever allow Miss Meng to humble herself and apologize to someone like me? The moment the words left her mouth, Xiao Xuanming's patience snapped, his anger flaring to life. Meng Zhao Zhao, my patience is not infinite. If you refuse to apologize today, then prepare to be cast aside. Prepare for the betrothal to be annulled. I watched them with detached amusement. As they put on this ridiculous show of the domineering crown prince and his pure, innocent maiden right in front of my eyes, I felt absolutely nothing. Glancing at the sun, I calculated the time in my head. The Emperor's imperial edict should be arriving any minute now. Sure enough, a loud announcement echoed from outside the second gate. Imperial edict arrives. The legitimate daughter of the Meng clan, Zhao Zhao, is incompatible with the crown prince according to their horoscopes. The imperial betrothal is hereby annulled, in recognition of the Meng clan's outstanding military achievements. Zhao Zhao is conferred the title of County Lord effective immediately, with full freedom to marry whomever she chooses. By the Empress' command, Miss Meng, hurry and accept the imperial edict. I knelt down on the ground, kowtowing deeply in respect. Your humble servant Meng Zhao Zhao thanks His Majesty for his kindness and understanding. The color drained from Xiao Xuanming's face, leaving him as pale as a ghost. His body swayed unsteadily, and he almost collapsed to the ground. Your Highness, please be careful, Cheng Feiyan cried, reaching out to steady him, but he roughly shook her hand away. Clarity returned to Xiao Xuanming's eyes, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated shock. He lunged forward, snatching the imperial edict from the eunuch's hands. His face was deathly white. Your Highness, this is against all protocol, the eunuch stammered, clearly terrified. Shut up, Xiao Shenming roared, seeing Xiao Shenming lose his composure so completely. Cheng Feiyan's eyes turned venomous, her gaze sharp enough to cut me to pieces. Impossible, how could this happen? You went to the palace that day not to annul the betrothal, but to annul the betrothal. I finished her sentence for her, my voice ringing out clearly. Now your Highness can finally have everything you've ever wanted. I wish you and Miss Cheng a long and happy life together. May you never be parted. With that, I walked past Xiao Shenming without a single glance, my face expressionless. His body swayed unsteadily, as if he would collapse into the lotus pond at any moment. For the rest of my coming-of-age ceremony, Xiao Shenming just stood there, staring at me in a daze. He still hadn't recovered from this devastating blow. Father beamed with joy as he sent the guests off, his face glowing with pride. When I returned to the backyard, Xiao Shenming suddenly grabbed me by the wrist, his grip like iron. Zhao Zhao, I always get what I want. With just one word from me, I can destroy your marriage to that useless scholar in an instant. Your Highness has never endured the hardships of 10 years of studying behind closed doors, yet as the heir to the throne, you slander a third-place scholar so casually. Does that mean you are questioning the judgment of the Hanlin Academy scholars, or are you questioning the Emperor's ability to select worthy talents? Miss Meng, Mrs. Chu requests your presence to try on your wedding dress. A maid called from the courtyard. I yawned, turning to leave, but Xiao Shenming refused to let go, chasing after me relentlessly. I promised your mother that I would take good care of you, he pleaded, his voice desperate now. As long as you come back to me, I can beg Father for another imperial edict of betrothal tomorrow. He looked so arrogant, as if offering me this second chance was the greatest gift he could ever bestow. Your Highness, a gentleman always helps others fulfill their wishes. Am I really that oblivious to your generosity? Xiao Shenming suddenly looked unwell, clutching his head as if he had a terrible hangover. His eyes clouded with confusion. He tightened his grip on my hand, speaking with great difficulty. I promise you, in this life, I will definitely protect you and your family. A chill ran down my spine when I heard his words. In this life, could it be that Xiao Shenming had also been reborn? But if he had been reborn, why was he still clinging to me so desperately? Your Highness must have had too much to drink. I am about to be married. If someone sees us like this, it will be scandalous for both of us, I said calmly, pulling my wrist out of his grasp. I signaled to 2 servants, who quickly stepped forward to support Xiao Shenming, escorting him out of the backyard. Aunt turned to look at me, her face filled with concern as she wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. Zhao Zhao, have you really let go of him? I snapped out of my daze, watching as Xiao Xuanming's figure disappeared around the corner. I nodded firmly. Don't worry, Aunt, I have long since given up on the Crown Prince. When Hemming sent someone to deliver a potted orchid to me, it was my mother's favorite flower. He certainly knew how to win people's hearts. When Hemming was the newly appointed third-place scholar in the imperial examinations, his elder sister had hosted a banquet in his honor. In truth, It was a chance for her to size me up, to see if I was worthy of being her brother's wife. I was still thinking about how to rebuild our relationship when he walked in, dressed in a flowing purple robe, looking like a man straight out of a painting. He was holding a knife, carefully peeling a crystal-clear pear. "I heard this is your favorite fruit," he said, his voice soft and melodious. He stood up slowly, offering me the peeled pear, but the sharp knife blade sliced open my finger in an instant. When Hemming reacted immediately, grabbing my injured finger, he took out a handkerchief and gently wiped away the blood, his movements tender and careful, but despite his gentle touch, a cold shiver ran down my spine. "Everyone says that Miss Meng is deeply in love with the Crown Prince, yet now you are fawning over a mere third-place scholar like me. What is your true motive?" When Hemming asked casually, his eyes sharp with suspicion. As soon as I had been reborn, I had sent someone to investigate when Hemming's background, his mother, fearing that the Empress would steal her newborn son away from her, had been falsely accused of using witchcraft to curse the Empress, the day before she was to be beaten to death. She had begged an imperial physician to smuggle her son out of the palace to safety. From that day on, the Emperor's eldest son had vanished without a trace. The imperial physician's entire family had also been executed for their involvement in the witchcraft case. My mother died saving the Crown Prince's life. Now the Emperor fears my father's military power and is secretly gathering evidence to frame him for treason, I said quietly, meeting his eyes directly. "You and I share the same enemies, do we not? I only ask for one thing, to let my father retire in peace, to spend his remaining years guarding the northwest border. The day you achieve your goal of reclaiming your rightful identity, we will divorce. I will never stand in your way." When Hemming heard my words, the smile vanished from his face instantly. In the next second, he grabbed me by the throat, his grip so strong it was impossible for a mere scholar to possess. "My suspicions were confirmed. You know too much," he hissed, his eyes cold and dangerous. My breathing grew more and more labored, my vision starting to blur. "If you don't trust me, then kill me right here and now. I have no complaints," I choked out, refusing to show any fear. When Hemming stared at my rapidly paling face, clearly curious about how a so-called brainless daughter of a military general could have seen through his true identity so easily, I met his probing gaze head-on. "What if I have a way to get you an audience with the Emperor, a way to restore your rightful identity?" When Hemming's grip loosened slightly, his eyes widening in surprise, he suddenly released me, and I collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, according to palace rules. The top 3 scholars of the imperial examinations were supposed to have a personal audience with the Emperor during the palace examination. When Hemming had been waiting for this opportunity for years, but unfortunately, the Emperor had fallen seriously ill right before the palace examination, so the Crown Prince and the Hanlin Academy scholars had presided over it instead. When Hemming still hadn't laid eyes on the Emperor, a mere third-place scholar, with no powerful allies in the court. Getting an audience with the Emperor was practically impossible. When Hemming looked at me with newfound interest, a faint smile playing on his lips, "I'm listening. In a month's time, the Emperor will take all the princes and princesses on a hunting trip to the Nanhai hunting grounds. Everyone in the palace knows that the Emperor dotes on Princess Duanyang more than anyone else. Your face has always seemed familiar to me." After thinking about it for a long time, I finally realized why you and Princess Duanyang bear a striking resemblance to each other. When talking to someone as intelligent as Wen Hemming, there was no need to spell things out explicitly. The Emperor doted on Princess Duanyang because her mother, concubine Yun, had been the love of his life. Years ago, concubine Yun had given birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. But when she woke up after giving birth, only her daughter was lying beside her. Her son had vanished without a trace. Concubine Yun had gone mad with grief, clutching her son's embroidered bellaband and confronting the empress in her palace only to be beaten to death right there. When Hemming was Princess Duanyang's long-lost twin brother, from that day on, when Hemming began to fake his affection for me in earnest, busying himself with the preparations for our wedding, when the spring hunt arrived, the emperor led his beloved princes and princesses straight to the Nanhai hunting grounds. Princess Duanyang rode into the forest in pursuit of a deer, and vanished without a trace. "Help! Someone help me!" By the time I reached her, the princess was lying on the ground, her face pale with fear. Across from her, a wild boar with sharp, curved fangs was pawing at the earth, snorting aggressively, ready to charge. When Hemming and I exchanged a quick glance, I pulled my bowstring taut, my fingers steady. The sharp arrow pierced the boar's hide, enraging it instantly. I shot when Hemming a meaningful look. He scooped the princess into his arms and leaped onto his horse in one fluid motion. Meanwhile, I fired 3 arrows in rapid succession, blocking the boar's path to them. The boar finally collapsed to the ground, its strength spent. I turned to Wen Hemming, offering him a relieved smile. But his eyes widened suddenly, his face draining of color. "Look out!" I spun around, only to see the boar, fueled by its last burst of strength, drive its fangs straight into my side. The Imperial Guards swarmed the boar, hacking it to pieces. As my consciousness faded, I felt someone lift me up and carry me to a hunting tent. When I woke up, Wen Hemming was sitting beside my bed, holding a bowl of medicinal soup. "You are absolutely reckless. You could have died," he snapped, his voice tight with anger and worry. "I only ask one thing," I whispered, my voice weak. "Please persuade His Majesty to let my father retire to his hometown in peace. Do not make things difficult for him." When Hemming stared at me intently, his eyes unreadable. After a long, tense silence, he spoke. "Do you really trust me that much? You have endured 10 years of hardship and humiliation, biding your time. Of course I believe you have the strength to reclaim what is yours. As expected of General Meng Yuanshan's daughter, you truly have the mettle of a warrior's daughter." The tent flap was suddenly thrown open. A figure clad in a bright yellow imperial robe stepped into my line of sight. I immediately tried to prop myself up to kowtow, wincing at the sharp pain in my side. The emperor rushed forward to stop me, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Zhao Zhao, today you saved us all. Without you, I would have failed Concubine Yun miserably." At the mention of Concubine Yun, when Hemming's body tensed visibly, he clenched his fists tightly at his sides, struggling to contain the roiling emotions in his chest. Standing rigidly like a statue, I quickly reached out and took his hand, pulling him forward. "Your Majesty, I could not have saved Princess Duanyang today without the help of my future husband," I said, my voice clear and steady. "Oh," the emperor raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. I gently pushed Wen Hemming forward, right into the emperor's line of sight. The emperor glanced at him casually, and the medicine bowl in his hand slipped from his grasp, shattering into pieces on the ground. The palace servants scrambled forward to clean up the mess, their faces pale with panic, but the emperor waved them away with a sharp gesture. He stood up slowly, his eyes fixed on Wen Hemming. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Your humble servant is Wen Hemming, the newly appointed third-place scholar of the imperial examinations," Wen Hemming replied, his voice calm and composed, though his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. "Your Majesty, does Master Wen not seem familiar to you?" I prompted gently. The emperor looked at me with a complex expression, then patted my shoulder lightly. "Since you are injured, you must rest well. I will come to see you again another day." As he walked past Wen Hemming, the emperor did not stop, not even for a moment. My heart sank, a cold knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. But not long after the emperor left, Eunuch Huang, his most trusted attendant, entered the tent. "These healing herbs are tributes from the Hui tribe," They are extremely effective for external wounds. Please keep them, Miss Meng, he said, bowing respectfully. His Majesty acquired a scroll of calligraphy from the previous dynasty today. He has heard that the new third-place scholar is well versed in the art of calligraphy. Please follow this old servant to the Emperor's tent to appraise it for him. The knot of anxiety in my stomach loosened at last. I let out a long, relieved breath. Wen Hemming shot me a grateful look, the first time he had ever looked at me not as a pawn or a prey, but as an ally. To ensure everything went smoothly, I ignored my injuries and went to visit Princess Duanyang. The Emperor and Wen Hemming spent 3 whole hours admiring the calligraphy scroll together. The maids had prepared a lavish dinner for me, but I had no appetite, picking at my food absently as I stared nervously at the tent flap. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching. My heart skipped a beat. I scrambled to my feet, only to pull my stitches, a sharp pain shooting through my side. A man rushed into the tent, his long strides eating up the distance between us. He swept me into his arms and helped me sit back down gently. You risked your life to save my sister. And now you won't even rest properly, he scolded, his voice filled with exasperation and concern. It was Xiao Shenming. He personally adjusted the pillow behind my back, then lifted me carefully onto the bed. Xiao Shenming, let go of me, I snapped, struggling in his arms. I was about to find an excuse to kick him out, when footsteps sounded outside the tent again. Husband, you're finally back, I called out, forcing a sweet, loving smile onto my face, when Hemming instantly caught onto my act. Playing along with perfect timing and chemistry. What's wrong? You didn't eat dinner while I was gone, he asked, his voice warm and doting as he stepped into the tent. I can't eat without you here, I replied, batting my eyelashes at him, feigning a look of helpless adoration. When Hemming reached out and pinched my cheek playfully, he picked up a bowl of porridge, his smile soft and affectionate, and began to feed me spoonful by spoonful. Xiao Shenming stood there, watching the two of us play our loving act, his jaw clenched so tightly I thought his teeth might shatter. When Hemming glanced at him, a hint of provocation in his eyes. Would your highness like to join us for dinner? He asked politely, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Scholar Wen, you and Zhao Zhao have only exchanged betrothal gifts. It is not yet certain who she will marry in the end, Xiao Shenming retorted coldly, his eyes fixed on me. Then he turned to me, his voice softening slightly. Rest well, I will come to see you again soon. But when Hemming cut him off, his tone firm and unyielding, Your Highness, my marriage to Miss Meng is imminent. I will take good care of my fiancé myself. There is no need for you to trouble yourself with her affairs. Xiao Shenming froze, rooted to the spot. His fingers twisted the jade ring on his thumb, a nervous habit of his when he was frustrated or angry. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something else, but his gaze fell on my pale, injured face, and he swallowed his words. With a look of defeat, he turned and walked out of the tent, his shoulders slumped in defeat. When Hemming's hand paused mid-air, the chopsticks hovering over the plate of deer meat, I straightened my back, leaning forward to bite the piece of meat off his chopsticks, my eyes sparkling with anticipation. Well, did it work? I asked eagerly. It was his family reunion, not mine, but I found myself more nervous than he was. Perhaps it was because I had known the Emperor since I was a child, had seen his mood swings, his unpredictable nature. The mind of an emperor was the hardest thing in the world to fathom. When Hemming signaled to the servants, ordering them to remove the deer meat, Miss Meng is severely injured. Bring her some light kanji instead. He picked up a chopstick full of asparagus, my favorite vegetable, and fed it to me sideways, his movements gentle and natural. He spoke casually, as if he were discussing the weather. It worked. After the spring hunt, when Hemming moved into the Chonghua Palace, recognized at last as the Emperor's long-lost son, I spent the next few months recuperating from my injuries. When Hemming attended to me personally, taking care of every detail of my recovery. I had not eaten any meat in months, and I was absolutely starving for it. One day, when Hemming set up a grill in the courtyard, he had hunted a deer himself, and now he was roasting it for me. I watched as he pulled the 7-star dagger from his sleeve once more, the same dagger he had almost used to kill me when we first met. He sliced off the tenderest piece of venison and held it out to me, feeding it to me with his own hands. "Your Highness, why are you suddenly being so kind to me?" I asked, chewing the delicious meat slowly. "Because no one has ever risked their life for me before," he replied, his voice soft and sincere. "Meng Jiao Jiao, thank you." Under the moonlight, I looked up at his face, handsome and striking, no less attractive than Xiao Xuanming's. A man this good-looking really was a walking disaster. When he smiled at me, my cheeks flushed bright red instantly. I coughed awkwardly, flustered. It was nothing, just a trivial matter, not worth mentioning," I stammered. "My father always taught me that one should do their best to help others when they can," emboldened by the wine and the delicious meat. I began to ramble on about the time I had hunted a white fox during the spring hunt when I was 7 years old. I got so caught up in the story that I started gesturing wildly with my hands, spinning around excitedly. Ouch! I lost my balance and stumbled backward, when Hemming dropped his knife instantly, stepping forward to catch me, his large hands wrapping around my waist to steady me. Oh no, this was a blatant case of using his good looks to charm me. When Hemming and I stared at each other, our faces both turning bright red in record time, as if we were competing to see who could blush faster, Princess Duanyang marched over, her nose in the air, her hands on her hips. "What are you two doing? You aren't even married yet, and you're already hugging each other. How improper," she huffed, feigning outrage. She grabbed Wen Hemming's hand, pretending to defend my honor. "Little brother, no matter how eager you are, you can't take advantage of Miss Meng like this, Your Highness. It's not what it looks like." When Hemming tried to explain, his ears turning pink, I saw it with my own eyes. "Don't try to deny it." When Hemming and I exchanged a panicked glance, if we didn't stop her now, the princess would probably lecture us all night long, quoting the Book of Rights from cover to cover. I quickly grabbed her hand, cutting her off mid-rant. "Princess, the deer meat is ready. It'll get tough if we don't eat it now." As a fellow food lover, the princess's eyes lit up instantly at the mention of food. "Right, let's eat first. Nothing ruins a good meal like letting it get cold." Once my injuries had fully healed, the emperor personally issued an imperial edict, betrothing me to Wen Hemming. "Jiao Jiao, it seems you really can't escape being my daughter-in-law after all," he joked, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "The imperial stable just received a batch of fine bloodstock horses from the northwest. Go pick one for yourself, it's my wedding gift to you." "Thank you, Your Majesty." When Hemming and I walked out of the Hall of Diligent Governance hand in hand, our fingers intertwined, our faces glowing with happiness, and there, standing right in front of us, was Xiao Xianming. His eyes were fixed on our clasped hands, his gaze dark and pained. "Jiao Jiao, your injuries have healed," he said, his voice hoarse and broken. He was clutching a bottle of golden healing ointment in his hand. Gone was the arrogant, confident crown prince I had once known. He looked tired, haggard, as if he had not slept in days. "Your Highness, Father has already issued the imperial edict of betrothal. You should address me as your sister-in-law now," I said, my voice calm and steady, devoid of any emotion. A clap of thunder rumbled across the sky. Xiao Xianming froze, turning as stiff as a stone statue. When Hemming noticed his strange behavior and pulled me closer to him, preparing to walk away, but Xiao Xianming reached out and grabbed my wrist, his grip tight and desperate. "Jiao Jiao, don't marry him, please," he begged, his eyes filling with tears. A sudden downpour began to fall, soaking us to the skin. I shivered, sneezing loudly. Xiao Xianming immediately moved to take off his cloak to wrap around me, But when Hemming was faster, he slipped his own cloak off his shoulders and draped it over me, his movements gentle and protective. Your Highness, Zhao Zhao is my fiancée now. There is no need for you to worry about her anymore, he said, his tone polite but firm. In the pouring rain, when Hemming held an umbrella over my head, walking with me all the way to the Yongning Gate. You should go back now, I said, looking up at him. He nodded, but his feet remained rooted to the spot, his eyes fixed on my face. He stood there watching me until my carriage disappeared beyond the Yongning Gate in the distance, and behind him, not far away, I saw another familiar figure, Xiao Shenming, standing alone in the rain, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. As our carriage passed the drunken spring tower, the rich, enticing aroma of wine and food wafted through the air. I had been cooped up in the palace for months, recuperating from my injuries, and I was starving for some good food. Just then, the window of a private room on the second floor was pushed open, and there I saw Cheng Feiyan, talking to a strange man in eunuch's robes. I have successfully...
But his hands were covered in cuts and blisters, dark circles pooling beneath his eyes like bruises. It usually took at least 7 days to make such a lantern. He had finished it in a single night. Please, for the sake of this lantern, as I stared at the lantern, my mind was flooded with memories not of our happy childhood, but of him, standing there like a madman, clutching a rabbit lantern, watching indifferently as enemy soldiers humiliated me. That bone-deep pain and shame jolted me back to my senses. I threw the lantern to the ground with all my strength, then I stamped on it, again and again, until it was nothing but splinters and tattered paper. I picked up the broken remains and thrust them into his hands. Your Highness, this lantern is broken. It can never be fixed. It can be fixed. I can fix it. The always composed, always in control Xiao Shenming held the broken lantern as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. A single tear slipped down his cheek. Your Highness, Cheng Feiyan, dressed in a bright red wedding gown, stumbled toward us, her face twisted with madness. When she saw the red sandalwood box in his hand, a flicker of panic crossed her eyes. Your Highness, we swore an oath before the moon god, to love each other for a lifetime, never to betray one another. Have you forgotten everything we promised? Xiao Xuanming's eyes turned sharp and cold. He shoved Cheng Feiyan to the ground with such force that she cried out in pain, then he threw the sandalwood box at her face. Get out, you scheming, venomous witch. If it weren't for you, Zhao Zhao would have been my crown princess long ago. Cheng Feiyan had clung to a sliver of hope until that moment. Now that her lies had been exposed, she dropped all pretense. She threw back her head and laughed a loud, wild, hysterical laugh that brought tears to her eyes. Your Highness, putting on this show of devotion again, was I not venomous enough to cloud your mind, to make you crawl into my bed every night? Then her gaze landed on me, her voice dripping with malice. You think Meng Zhao Zhao is some innocent saint? Her father has long been colluding with the Khan of Northern Rong in secret. Don't believe me? Send your men to search the Meng mansion right now. They'll find the evidence. Since she had stopped pretending, I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine, to let her die a quick, painful death. I clapped my hands once. In an instant, that eunuch spy was dragged forward, along with all the Northern Rong agents we had uncovered. This was not my doing, it was Wen Hemming's, who had been laying the groundwork for this moment for months. Miss Cheng, or should I call you Princess Yaya of Northern Rong? All the spy networks you spent years building are right here, I said, my voice cold and steady. The confident smirk slipped from Cheng Feiyan's face, as she stared at her life's work, destroyed in the blink of an eye. She turned to me and laughed, a bitter, desperate sound. I always thought you were nothing but a brainless brute, the illiterate daughter of a military general. I never imagined that I, a princess, would be defeated by someone like you. She was right. She had been a princess of Northern Rome all along, a child prodigy who could compose poems at the age of 7, who had memorized the 4 books and 5 classics by the age of 10, a renowned talent known throughout the land. And now she had been defeated by me, the girl who had always hated reading, Meng Zhao Zhao. I will never admit defeat. I will drag you down to hell with me. With that, she flicked her sleeve. Activating a hidden mechanism, dozens of poisoned arrows shot straight toward me, their tips glinting with deadly intent. In that split second, Xiao Xianming threw himself in front of me. Spreading his arms wide to shield me from the arrows pierced his body, one after another, tearing through his purple robes. Blood soaked his clothes, turning them a deep, dark red. Xiao Xianming turned to look at me one last time, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Then he charged at Cheng Feiyan, his eyes blazing with rage. Phut! A sharp dagger pierced Cheng Feiyan's heart, right through her red wedding gown. She had no time to dodge, no way to escape. She died at the hands of the man she had tried to control. Your Highness, you are so cruel, she whispered, her breath fading. Then she crushed the sandalwood box in her hand. At that signal, the hidden agents scattered in the crowd revealed their true colors, their eyes turning fierce and bloodthirsty. They pulled out their weapons, surrounding me in a tight circle. Kill this woman, make her pay for the princess's death. Yes, the arrows had been coated with a deadly poison. As Xiao Xianming slipped into unconsciousness, his hand still clutched the broken pieces of the tiger lantern. The imperial physicians tried everything, but they could not pry his fingers apart. 3 months later, Xiao Xianming was reduced to a hollow shell of a man, broken, mindless, a shadow of his former self. When the emperor heard the news, his hair turned white overnight. He slammed his fist against his thigh, lamenting bitterly that Xiao Xuanming's poor judgment had nearly destroyed the entire Great Qi dynasty. The next morning, the ministers submitted a joint memorial to the throne, stating that the crown prince was morally unfit to rule, that he was unworthy of his position, that he should abdicate in favor of a more deserving heir, that the first prince, who had barely returned to the palace yet had already uprooted the Northern Rome spy network, was the rightful heir to the throne. The emperor locked himself in the Hall of Diligent Governance for 3 days and 3 nights. On the 4th day, he issued an imperial edict, naming Wen Hemming as the new crown prince. Xiao Xianming was stripped of his title, imprisoned in the North Garden for the rest of his life. Forbidden to leave without the emperor's explicit permission, Northern Rome launched a full-scale invasion shortly after, in the midst of heated debates among the ministers, some advocating for war, others for peace. My father, despite being over 60 years old, his hair streaked with grey, knelt before the golden throne and volunteered to lead the imperial army into battle. He was doing this to protect me, to atone for the suspicion that had fallen on the Meng clan because of Xiao Xuanming's betrayal. When I donned a suit of armor and knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance, begging to fight alongside my father, Wen Hemming knelt beside me. His hand clasped tightly in mine. Before I could even open my mouth, he begged the emperor to let him lead the army, to drive the Northern Rome invaders back. You have only just been reunited with your father. He cannot bear to lose another son, I said, my voice thick with emotion. And you cannot bear to lose your father a second time, he replied, his eyes steady and resolute. On the day he left for the front, snowflakes drifted down from the sky like goose feathers, covering the ground in a blanket of white. Wen Hemming, I will wait for you to come back, I shouted, watching his figure disappear into the distance. Half a year later, Wen Hemming returned triumphant, having defeated the Northern Rome army and secured the borders of Great Qi. He was officially crowned as crown prince. I dressed in a bright red wedding gown, the color of victory and joy, and walked step by step up the imperial steps. I stood beside him, my hand in his. Memories flashed before my eyes like scenes from a shadow play, my past life and my present, intertwined. Mother throwing herself in front of Xiao Xianming to block an assassin's blade, Xiao Xianming shielding me from Cheng Feiyan's poisoned arrows. Me facing a wild boar's fangs without hesitation to help Wen Hemming reunite with his family. We had all fought desperately for the people we cherished, for the things that mattered most to us, as the past played out in my mind. I squeezed Wen Hemming's hand tightly. Together, we ushered in the golden age of Great Qi, a reign of peace and prosperity ruled by 2 sovereigns. When the red wedding candles were lit high, I looked up to see the entire eastern palace adorned with orange-red tiger lanterns, hanging from every rafter, glowing warmly in the night. A bright full moon hung in the sky. The lanterns in the eastern palace burned all night long. The next morning, A mournful bell tolled from the west garden. Xiao Xianming had committed suicide by drinking poisoned wine. Side story: from Xiao Xuanming's perspective, the Forbidden City had not seen a joyous occasion in a long time. When the triumphant fanfare echoed through the palace gates, my elder brother rode into the city, clad in golden armor, his face radiant with victory, and beside him stood Meng Jiaojiao, the woman I had loved for 2 lifetimes. She was marrying my brother. She had always looked best in red. Like a phoenix flower blooming brightly under the scorching sun. Your Highness, your hands are practically ruined from making that lantern for Miss Meng. Why go to such lengths? My servant asked, his voice filled with pity. I only make these lanterns for the person I love, I replied, my fingers brushing the splinters of the broken tiger lantern in my palm. They say that when a person is dying, their entire life flashes before their eyes like a revolving lantern. As the poison coursed through my veins, burning my throat and searing my chest, my mind drifted back to 10 years ago, to the Meng family courtyard in Feng County. Beneath the wisteria trellis, 2 children sat on the ground, punished to make lanterns as a lesson. When will you agree to marry me, Jiao Jiao? A young boy asked, his eyes shining with hope. Only if you ride a tall horse to my door, and make 100 tiger lanterns with your own hands, and hang them all over our wedding chamber. The little girl replied, sticking out her tongue playfully, I promise, on our wedding day, I will make 100 tiger lanterns for you. Pinky swear, if I break this promise, I'll be struck by lightning. 100 years, no take-backs.